Hi everyone, and welcome to the Rugger. The Six Nations squad has dropped, so I really want to get onto that straight away, but I will just go over a quick helicopter view of the games last week for club rugby and the games coming up. So I didn't even have space on the whiteboard to put it up, so sorry if this looks really mashed and squished, but there's 37 names and I want to kind of depict the positions as well as the names because depending where you look online, it can look really, bizarre. On the Irish Instagram account, it's all done alphabetically. I think it's a real horrendous way to do it because you just don't have an idea of who's where really. You kind of know the positions more than the players sometimes. So the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup was last week, and it was good for most, bad for Munster. Ulster, I'll start off with the Ulster game on Saturday. Sorry if my nose is a bit blocked here, obviously, it's January. Ulster played Stade Francais in Ulster, had a very commanding lead, and then didn't bottle it, but donated a lot of points in the last quarter of the game. Stade Francais came back big time in the second half, but Ulster still won 26 points to 19, which is great. Now they are in the the knockouts in April in the Challenge Cup, and they'll be playing the Ospreys. So I would definitely put Ulster in the hat to win the Challenge Cup. They've been playing so well this season. They've really just been impressing everybody with their rugby. I think, from neutrals, from other, province fans. It just seems to be really exciting rugby, and everyone's cheering them on. More players to get into the Six Nations squad, which I will get to. But yeah, great to see them still maintaining that standard. Then you had Leinster against Bayonne away, so they're in Bayonne for this. This was right before the Munster game. I was actually at the Munster game when they played Cast on Saturday. So there's that Shannon Rugby Bar in Thomond Park that you go in to kind of mingle around and look at all the stuff on the walls. Really cool statue bust of Anthony Foley that I never saw before. It's just really cool. And the Leinster game was on there, so everybody obviously was cheering for Bayonne. And you really thought Bayonne had it for a long time. Leinster just pulled back in the end. They won 22 points to 13, but it was unconvincing. But they have still managed their winning run at the moment. So they're in line to play Edinburgh for the knockouts for the Champions Cup in April. And they actually have the real soft side of the draw. I want to go into the layout of that draw later down the line, but they definitely have the easier side of that draw. Compared to standout kind of players like Bath, Toulouse, Bordeaux, those kind of elite level clubs, Northampton Saints, they're all on the opposite side. So if Leinster is going to play any of them down the road in the Champions Cup, it will probably be the final if they get that far. So we'll see. So then there was the Munster game on Saturday evening against Cast. I thought it was pronounced Castor. Apparently it's Cast, depending who you talk to. And it was a bit of a heartbreaker. I was in the terraces for the first time. If you haven't tried that before, I recommend the terraces. I'm never sitting in a seat ever again. The terraces is where the atmosphere is at. So I give it an A+ for atmosphere, a C- for performance, because obviously they lost. 29 points to Cast's 31. Cast seemed to just be a total different demon. In the last 5 encounters between these two teams, it's always been Munster. So yeah, you have to say they kind of deserved the win. Even as a Munster fan, nobody was really devastated or crestfallen that they had been knocked out because Casper were the better team that day. A lot of mistakes from Munster. 6 points lost on account of Jack Crowley. Bad day for him. I feel like that affected his candidacy for starting fly half for the crunch games that's coming in the Six Nations. I felt like that was a step back for Jack Crowley. Unfortunately, he had 3 conversions that he missed. That's just not good enough. Not good enough for the Champions Cup. And to be honest, if they had won this game, I wouldn't have seen them getting far in the Champions Cup just because of the form they've been exhibiting lately. The last, they're on a losing run now of a good few games. They really need to win this weekend. So it was, they lost by 2 points. It just shows how important those conversions are. But it was great to be that close to the players. Jack Crowley was taking his kicks. You could right there in front of us, I could hear Craig Casey barking orders at people down the line. It was great. And it's a cheaper ticket. So I just, don't understand why more people want to do that. You don't feel it when you're watching a game of rugby. You're just kind of entranced anyway. So yeah, it was a terrific atmosphere at least. So they are going to be now, they've now been demoted. So they've knocked out essentially of the Champions Cup. So they're going to be in the Challenge Cup now. That's what happens when you get demoted. You still get to play, but you've just been downgraded to the Challenge Cup. So they're going to be playing Exeter Chiefs in April when we resume those tournaments. So that's a worrying fixture because they are on the up, the Chiefs. So we'll see how they get on. And then you had Connacht against Montauban, US Montauban. Don't know these guys. I actually thought it was a US club for some reason, but it's just a fancy initial for a French club, Montauban. They totally destroyed them 75 points to 14. So good to see the Connacht have gotten back on the board. Very convincing win. And they'll be playing the Sharks, who aren't really, they're famed for having a lot of Springbok players, but just not playing that well for the talent that they have. So they will be playing the Sharks in the knockout rounds when that comes back up in April. So we'll have 3 Irish provinces in the Challenge Cup, unfortunately, and only 1 Leinster in the Champions Cup this year. So that was the rugby. The weekend just gone. This coming weekend, we've got Munster against Dragons. That's this evening on Friday, 7:45. You want Munster to win that. They really need to break the losing streak. So, yeah, hopefully that's a home game as well. So they're currently number 6 in the standings for the URC. So this is the URC resuming now. It's a weird kind of 2-week interval between the Challenge and Champions Cup to the Six Nations, where there's 2 rounds of the URC, but it's a weird, does anyone really care kind of 2 weeks because so many of the star players are taken out and put into the national squad. So it's a good opportunity for lesser known players to play. Still something to be said for it, but I do feel it's like, at this stage, we're just waiting for the Six Nations. So, we'll see. Munster against the Dragons, that's today. So they're number 6 ranked in the URC. If it's so close to the top, if Munster win, they could shoot up to 5 or even 4, depending on how the other results go of the weekend. So you want all Irish provinces in that top 4 to keep things interesting. Will it happen? Tough call. Then you got Scarlets against Ulster. So Ulster are playing away. That's 3 o'clock tomorrow. You would think they would win that based on their current form. They're currently ranked 3 in the URC. So they're at a very healthy, strong position. The URC want to see that form maintain itself. And because so many Ulster players were, to be fair, ignored, they will still be able to use them for the game tomorrow. And then there's Connacht against Leinster. So this is a home game in the Dexcom Stadium tomorrow at 5:30. I don't see Connacht winning it, but it'd be great if they gave up a good performance because the Dexcom now is finished. The large part of the stand they were working on for a long time. They put 40 million into this. I can't believe that's a lot of money. So they put a real corporate experience in there. There's a glass tunnel seats that you can sit down and see the teams coming out the side kind of thing. They've really gone all out, invested a lot into this. So I just really hope it goes well for them. I think capacity now is 12,500. So it's great to see that the Dexcom is finished, that Connacht Rugby are really trying to put themselves out there and promote themselves more and really invest in their own games. So I really hope as long as they give a good performance, that would be good. So yeah, those are the games tomorrow. But really what I want to talk about is the Six Nations team has dropped for Ireland. So it's huge news. So I scrunched all these names on and then put the positions down and kind of put them in order of kind of the players I like. And then I kind of forgot down here. So it's a bit mixed up, but for more or less, it should be in sequence. And some of these players can play other positions. This is just their kind of alpha positions. They can be changed around. People like Jamie Osborne can play different positions. Kieran Frawley can play different positions. But I'll go through them and just, talk a little about who has been selected. It seems like a very conservative choice. Everybody wanted Zach Ward and Joshua Kenny. It feels like, well, at least Zach Ward to be included. Unfortunately, he wasn't, which is a real bummer because you would think now is a good time to start blooding these players. But I get it. From another point of view, it's a conservative choice, but there's still a couple of people that have new caps there. But really, the Six Nations is the lifeblood of the Ireland team. It's money. You win, you get 6 million euros. You lose, you only get 1 million, I think. So it goes up in ascending order in what you place. So the higher your place, the more money you get for your team to invest in more. Keep the system running smoothly. So it's business. Andy Farrell has to be a bit conservative. He wants experience on that bench, on the team. But it's really hard to say, still who is he going to use for the French game next month, because there are a lot of injuries. He's put people on this squad that at the moment are injured, but they might be fine in a week or so. So, and this is just through experience. It happens all the time. There are people like Tyke Furlong, who has this really recurring calf injury. He's always selected, even though he might be injured at the time. Halfway through the tournament, he might come around. They'll use him and he'll play great. So it's a big mix between injuries and experienced players, and players that are out. Like Andrew Porter isn't on the squad. That's big. I can't remember the last time he was excluded from a Six Nations squad, but that's how bad his injury is. Paddy McCarthy, we're all hoping to see at Loosehead, who has really been tearing up trees. He is out for the whole tournament. So Mac Hansen is out for the whole tournament. So there are people like that who are, your real kind of X factor players who just couldn't make the cut. So there's all different kinds of shade for this squad, but it's a real talking point. So to start things off with our Loosehead props, we have Jack Boyle, who at the moment is our best Loosehead available. We've lost Porter and McCarthy. So luckily now, Boyle has been playing great this season. So this is a very good opportunity for him to come along and say, hey, I got this. No worries. I'll be your alpha Loosehead prop. So really wish him the best of luck. Because really the cab rank for this position falls off drastically when those two guys are out. So we've got two Munster props that have an opportunity here. So this is the good thing about injuries with the Ireland squad. It's like the only way sometimes you can get on is through injuries. So Jeremy Loughman, who a lot of people outside of Ireland seems to pronounce Loughman on their pundit videos, but it is Loughman, I believe, like a loch, like a lake. So Jeremy Loughman, I would say next for Loosehead, and then Michael Milne, both another Munster Loosehead. So those are the two guys that are picked to back up that position. I would say Jeremy Loughman is just a little bit ahead of Milne because he has more caps. For hooker, now this has been pretty much untouched, thank God. So you've got Dan Sheehan, Ronan Kelleher, who are real standard regulars on this team always the last few years. Two of the best hookers in the world, really, especially Dan Sheehan. And then Tom Stewart, who's been doing very well for Ulster. He's been given a chance, so really hope he takes it by the horns. So the hookers are kind of untouched. Gus McCarthy wasn't picked. He was put in the Ireland's 15 team instead, the kind of the B team, the development team, or I suppose you could say, while the Six Nations is going on. But some of these guys could get called up. There'll be injuries, there could be injuries before the Six Nations starts. There'll be injuries during the Six Nations. So everything is still on the table for a lot of the players that have missed out on the initial 37 people. So keep that in mind. There's always just developments and twists. But those were the hookers. And you would think Dan Sheehan's going to be captain for one or two of the games. He's been doing great. Tight head now, we have 4 props. And that's just telling that Tyke Furlong has been selected, but there's not confidence in him for at least the first game, or maybe even the second game. So he's got a calf injury, I believe. So we've got Tyke Furlong, we've got Tom Clarkson, we've got Finlay Beale, who's also injured. And then we got Tom O'Toole, who has been known to dabble in Loosehead, but I think primarily Ulster just said, no, we want him as our tight head. I love this guy like years ago, and I don't think he was used at all in the World Cup. Shock. They didn't really use too many of the fringe players, but he has been picked, which is great. He's gotten an opportunity now for the Six Nations. So you got your 4 tight heads there. For our locks, I would say, I guess you could say open side lock. Blindside lock. You have Joe McCarthy. Big news. Edwin Adogbo and Tom Ahern have been picked. So that's brilliant. Edwin Adogbo, he hasn't been capped before, so he's going to get an opportunity. One saving grace about Munster lately is the fact that Edwin Adogbo plays savagely. He's great. He's just, he's on fire. He's just a machine. Really good to watch him play. And now his brother Sean is on the Munster squad for tomorrow. So it's great. The Adogbo brothers, imagine getting them on the team. We're getting a lot of brother partnerships going on between Prendergasts and McCarthy's. Are the O'Briens related? Jimmy and Tommy O'Brien? I'm not sure if they're related. It's a pretty common surname in Ireland, but great to see. I don't think there's any other brothers, is there? I felt like there's another one in there. No, maybe not. But yeah, great to see these two guys from Munster getting a chance, getting a bite of the apple. they're going to have to be used because there's only three of them at lock number 4. And, I'd say a dogbo could even be used for the French game. We'll see. But Joe McCarthy would be the first choice there. It's great to see Joe is back now. He wasn't playing for Ireland in November, and you could just feel like that was a big difference. He's that kind of a player. Remember when Ireland beat France 2 years ago? He stormed onto the stage. I actually had never really noticed him. I think he was on the World Cup squad in 23, but I didn't even notice him back then. And then all of a sudden he grew a mullet and he started playing against France and traumatizing them with this record win in was it Marseille? But yeah, what a performance 2 years ago. So he's still that quality player. So he's back from injury, thank God. So he is here for lock number 4. We've got McCarthy, Dogbo, and Ahern. And then 5, we have Tyke Byrne and James Ryan. Tyke Byrne can play in the back row, of course. So it really could be either or. It could be a lock or he could be in the back row. But it's good that we just have him. This is standout player of the tournament for the Lions series. Hasn't been playing well lately. He's been getting a lot of cards the last 6 months, and it's not good for business. Whenever he gets carded, the other team scores points immediately. So he's that kind of a difference. He goes for the poach and he jackals stuff, and when it works, it's beautiful. When it doesn't, he gets a card. So it's so unpredictable with him lately. Still a fantastic player, one of the best, but you just really hope he has a good Six Nations because we need him at his best. And then you got James Ryan as well at lock number 5. Open side lock. So those are the locks. Blindside flanker. Keane Prendergast is really the only guy, you could say predominantly owns that role, but I know Jack Conan tends to play blindside as well. And I think Nick Timoney. Then you got for number 8, Caelan Doors. He'll be picked number 8 for every game he gets a chance. He's the captain of the squad for some time now. So he's the captain of this Six Nations as well. Then we got Jack Conan below him, who's played a lot at 8 and in the other place in the back row as well. He's also been having a good season. Then open side flanker, you got Josh Van der Fleer, who's been nailed on that position, number 7, for what seems like half a decade now at least. Is anyone going to push him out of that position? He's still playing good rugby. I feel like he's not the standard that he used to be, but he's still in his early 30s, so lot left in that tank. So hope it goes well from then. You got Nick Timoney, who has seen kind of these little incursions into the squad. He was in the November squad as well. Great player for Ulster. So hopefully he gets some game time in the Six Nations. So that's your back row mix. Only 5 guys. I thought it would be a bit bigger. Then for scrum half, very predictable, but also a new thing for Nathan Doak. He hasn't been capped yet, but predictable for Jameson Gibson Park and Craig Casey. So you would think that's kind of where the pecking order is. Nathan Doak hasn't been capped, so he's at the bottom, but he's got a chance. He's in the squad. So we want him to get more chances for Ireland because he's terrific. He's been playing really exceptionally for Ulster this season. Been really good with his kicks. And just he's a big unit for a number 9. Number 9s are normally quite small compared to the rest of the guys on the team, but he's a big, tall guy. So it doesn't hurt to have a fly half, kind of like Conor Murray. So those are your scrum halves. Now, fly halves. Now, this is interesting. I put Harry Byrne at the top just because really, to be fair, this season he's played, in my opinion, the best out of all the fly halves that we have available. He went away to Bristol that year. Everyone forgot about him. He did a Johnny Sexton and he came back and he showed what he had learned, his new IP as a fly half. He's been great. He clutched the kick against La Rochelle a couple of weeks back. He's just been really impressive. So I really hope he gets a start against France. I think he's earned it. I'd love to see what he does against France. Can he take this on? Can he take on that kind of pressure? It'd be really good acid test for him. But he has been picked, and then Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley, who used to be kind of gunning each other out. Now they got Harry Byrne in the mix. I think Sam's been fine this season. I think Jack has gone down. He was great earlier on in the autumn, that game against Leinster in the autumn. It just seems to have gone down a little bit, unfortunately. Still both very young fly halves. We haven't even begun to see the start of their career, I think. They're going to be around for a while, but I really do hope Jack finds a bit more form because he just seems to be missing kicks. It's almost like he's working too hard for Munster. He could be picked not even a fly half. He can do fullback. He can do other positions too. Let's try and use him in other positions. Imagine if you had a game where you had, Harry Byrne and Jack Crowley on at the same time, or Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley at the same time. It just seems a bit more daunting. You got more player makers in the mix there. So Sam Prendergast was used for fullback a couple of times recently, and he seemed to do a good job of it. So it's good to see that they're using Sam in a different way as well. Bringing out the Swiss Army knife in him a bit more. So those are our fly halves. Inside center, I actually meant to put Stuart McCluskey above Bundy Aki in terms of kind of ranking, but I put Bundy first. But Bundy, just feel like his time is up, unfortunately. I feel like he's just fallen off in terms of form. He's just getting a little bit older. It's a total national treasure, but I think it's a very conservative pick from Andy Farrell. It feels like it's more out of loyalty. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes and plays really well for Ireland. But, if we're pointing fingers at people that should be pushed out to develop other players, it's Bundy Aki and James Lowe, unfortunately, just because they haven't really, just because they played so well in the past, it just pales in comparison to these days where they just seem to be, I don't know, just not as good and maybe better off the bench as impact players. Well, especially Bundy, I think, needs to be reserved for the bench now just to get the most out of his gas. James Lowe is a different story. So, yeah, we've got Bundy. We've got Stuart McCluskey, played great in the autumn against the All Blacks. Unfortunately, got a niggle, got an injury there, but he's been playing good for Ulster. Really want to see him do well at inside centre. And then Kieran Frawley, I decided to put for inside centre, even though he's down as fly half according to whatever team sheet. Kind of depends what internet source that you're using. Some people still refer to him as a fly half, but really he's an inside centre, or he could be a fullback. He's been, I suppose, okay. Just haven't really seen him do anything amazing these days, but good to see that he's still considered in the squad. Outside centre, just only two guys. That's Gary Ringrose, who's back from injury. He's going to be your number one pick because of his experience and his potential. And then Tom Farrell, so the guy that was in his early 30s that just got his first cap recently. They picked him again, so he must be doing something right. So hope it goes well for him as a Munster fan. So those are our centres. And then left wing, you got James Lowe and Jacob Stockdale, really. Just haven't seen James Lowe do anything James Lowish lately. Back 2 years ago, 2022, 2023, up to the World Cup, he was like, a huge star. He was just scoring tries left, right, and centre for Ireland. It was like every game he would score a try. It just feels like he hasn't scored a try for Ireland in a while. Maybe he has, but in recent times, just can't really remember. It just seems that he still plays well. And it's not like your wingers have to score tries. You can still be a winger and disrupt and play a great game, and get player of the match and help people out and set things up. But you do think, you're at the end of the line. It's kind of like, I suppose, assumed you're going to be finishing. And it just seems like he hasn't finished a try in a good while. But he got a great left boot, and he's improved his defense, so he does have that pedigree. So I know where Andy is coming from. But I just wonder, like, both him and Bundy, Father Time's just catching up a little bit on them. We have a World Cup coming up, this coming summer. Are people going to get dropped? Are people going to retire after the Six Nations is done? We'll see. But, just feels like a lot of people are saying it. What's going on? Bundy and James, why are they picked? What about other guys? We've got a plethora of other guys to pick from. So, yeah, then you got Jacob Stockdale now. He's been playing great this season. Really hope he gets a chance. He can also play fullback. Really want to see him in the mix as well. Delighted he was picked. So there's a good few Ulster players. I think there's 7 Ulster players picked this Six Nations, which seems like the biggest contingent in a long time. If you combined Connacht, Munster and Ulster players, it would roughly match the amount of Leinster players on the squad. So it just shows you that Leinster is still the bulk supplier for players on this squad. They are still the majority, the superpower, the main force of our our players. So interesting that that disparity is that big. They could nearly play a game of Leinster guys against a coalition of the other provinces. So then we have right winger. Right winger, we've got Tommy O'Brien. Don't really need to say much here. He's just been playing great all season. Makes sense to have him at the right wing. Wish him best of luck. Robert Balakoon. Great to see him picked. He's got some serious gas on him. Another Ulster player in the mix. He's been scoring a lot of tries for Ulster lately. Real tall winger, massive legs, just really good. That's the kind of runner we need. Can cover a lot of ground. So really hope he gets some chances. He normally gets a lot of injuries around Six Nations time or for Ireland team in general, and just has had bad luck over the last few years. So I really hope he gets some time to shine this Six Nations. So those are the 37 guys. It makes sense. It's not a bad squad. It really isn't. It's conservative, yes, but there's still a couple of players there. Nathan Doak and Edwin Adogbo at least shows you that Andy is trying to start with new players, but I don't think we're going to see that until after the Six Nations, when there's over a year left to the World Cup, and he will start going, okay, who am I really going to consider now over the next 12 months? Who am I really going to back? Where can we make changes? What's the composition going to look like? Because injuries will happen down the future. He needs to try as many new players as he can for the next 18, 12 months. So he'll have lots to think about watching the Ireland 15s play England next week, or is the week after? I think it's the week after next. Then you have fullback. Sorry, I forgot about the fullbacks. Hugo Keenan. He's been injured for a while. He has been on the mend. He has been training. I don't think he's ready to play against France. I'd be very surprised if he was picked for the French game because he's had no rugby since the Lions tour. So you'd want to say pump the brakes, Hughes, and maybe just watch from the sidelines and play against Italy. Just kind of ease back into it because you don't want him to relapse and get another injury. We need him. He is our best potential fullback when he's at the peak of his powers. So would be very surprised if in the French game. Jamie Osborne, again, another Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of different positions in the backs, but he could probably be the fullback picked when the Six Nations start. But he also has been suffering from injury. Now, Jacob Stockdale is another potential fullback if Jamie still isn't okay enough in time for the beginning, but we'll see. So yes, those are the 37. So what I'm going to do now is, just hypothetically, if the French game was played tomorrow, I'm going to just highlight the people I'd pick for that game. And we're assuming everybody's fit and healthy, but still taking into consideration the guys that are healthy now stay healthy, and the guys that are on the mend are still on the mend. So if it was tomorrow, I would pick Jack Boyle for loose head starting and Jeremy Loughman for on the bench. I'd pick Dan Sheehan to start, Ronan Kelleher on the bench. I'd pick probably Tyke Furlong, still got a calf probably, so I'd say Tom Clarkson to start and Tom O'Toole on the bench, just because Finlay and Tig are still on the mend and I don't know if they'll be ready in time. So those would be my forwards, prime forwards and their replacements. For the locks, I'd go with Joe McCarthy and James Ryan, and I'd use Tig Byrne. That's why the blindside flanker looks so empty, because lately, he's been played a lot here. I'd use Tig Byrne to start at blindside flanker because he can also play blindside flanker. I'd say Joe McCarthy and James Ryan for the starting locks. Put Tig Byrne to start, and then Caelan Doris and Josh Van der Fleer for the back row to start. Now, for replacements, I think Ireland should do a 6-2 split against France, just like what they did 2 years ago when they played that brilliant game away to France and had a record score. I think it was 38 points to 21 or something, 38 points to 19. So Joe McCarthy, James Ryan, and then backup locks, I would say, I suppose put Edwin Adogbo as a backup lock, and then Jack Conan and Keane Prendergast. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Edwin Adogbo, Jack Conan, and Keane Prendergast. So 2 guys for the back row and 1 guy for a lock. So there's your 6-2. That makes sense. And then for the scrum half, James Gibson Park, Craig Casey as backup. And then for fly half, I'm going to say Harry Byrne. Just throw him to the dogs there in France. Just let him play. Let him start and see what he can do. And then for backup, I would actually say Sam Prendergast. Even though I'm a Munster fan, I just think Sam would be better off the bench. I don't know why. I just think he's been better with his game management, with his passing, with the way he directs games. He's just been so great at screwing things up for the opposition. Inside centre, Stuart McCluskey. And outside, Gary Ringrose. And for the left wing, I just know he's going to pick James Lowe, so I'm just going to say James Lowe anyway. And then fullback, you know what? Fullback Jacob Stockdale, because these guys are still pretty injured. And then Tommy O'Brien, who's on fire. Now, who will be the backups? Let's see, if it's a 6-2, we only have one more person we could use. So I'd say Jack Crowley for like fullback or something for a backup. So just Sam and Jack. Imagine having those three fly halves play the same game. Would be great. So yeah, that would be my team for France if it would be played tomorrow. I hope that makes sense. So when you do a 6-2, you're really sacrificing. You can't, there's only two backs you can use, and you need someone to be a scrum half backup. You always do. Like that scrum half just gets tired. You need someone as a backup for that position. It seems to be the one that's just uncompromising, that you need to have a scrum half in waiting off the bench. But when there's only one guy left, you need him to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife, and Jack Crowley can do that. He's not as much as Kieran Frawley, but I just think he would be better at for the time being. So that would be my setup for the French game. I might try that again in the run-up next month when there'll be a few more injuries and developments, so we'll see. So yeah, who missed out? Leave a comment and tell me, who do you think missed out in this squad? It's a big squad, 37 guys. Zach Ward comes to mind. Joshua Kenny, even though he's quite new, he's just been scoring so many tries. Just feel like he's destined to be on the team. But Zach Ward as well. Breen Ward, his brother, also been doing very well. Jude Postlewaite. These are all Ulster guys. They need to be considered. But they've all the players that have not gone on have been picked for the Ireland 15 team. So it's not like they've been left in the wind. They are still being looked at, and that's what the 15 is for. So we'll see. I hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave a comment. What do you think about this squad? Where's it going? Are we in the doldrums? Are we going backwards? Are we going forwards? Are we staying exactly in situ? Let me know. I hope you enjoy your weekend of rugby, and thanks. Bye.